guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to another video. Now today is the day I'm going to do my final championship table predictions. There's about 11 or 12 games to go, and after the results we've had in the last week or so, I've got to say the championship table's just about taking shape, and I'm going to give you my final championship predictions. Just before the video starts, guys, remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and share it around with your friends. Let's get up to 2,000 subscribers. We're so close now. Let's get into this. So then, starting at the bottom and working our way up, in 24th place we have Wycombe Wanderers. That'll be no surprise to you guys, honestly. It's probably one of the easiest picks for me, and that's no disrespect to Wycombe. It's just at the start of the season everyone did tip them to finish bottom of the table. They've been bottom for a few weeks now and they just don't look like they're going to get out of it. They've got the smallest budget, but do you know what? Fair play to them. As a club, I do like Wycombe. They've been a decent addition to the championship this year. They just haven't shown enough quality and they haven't really got the resources to stay up in this division. I think they might get a couple of wins between now and the end of the season, but not enough to stay up. They'd need to win more than half of their games to stay up now. But I do wish them all the best in League One next season. I've got to say, as a club, this season I've really liked them, and do you know what? It'd be great to see them come back up one year. Now in 23rd, this would have been a tricky one to pick a couple of weeks ago, but after the week's results we've just had, I'm going to go for Sheffield Wednesday. Now this pains me because I actually quite like Sheffield Wednesday. I think they're a decent club. They've got some decent supporters, and I was hoping that they would stay up because I've never been to Hillsborough, and if there's fans next season, it's one of the grounds I want to go to. But after the results they've had this week, that 96th minute goal they conceded against Rotherham, and then a 3-0 defeat against Reading at the weekend, you struggle to see how they're going to stay up. Now Darren Moore has just come in. He is still finding his feet, but you've got to say he'd be a magician if he could keep them up now. They're 7 points adrift and the games are running out. They've got a very tough run in. They've got some winnable games between now and the end of the season, to be fair to them. But once again, a bit like Wycombe, I feel like they'd have to win at least half of their games to get out of this. And I think with Darren Moore still finding his feet, it might just be a bit too little too late. I think he might be the manager to bring them back up next season. It'd be nice if they give him a go in League One, because Darren Moore is a decent manager. He might be the man to bring them back up. But Sheffield Wednesday, I'm putting you 23rd. Now then, this is where it gets really tricky. 22nd, the last place to fill in the bottom three. Wow, this is really tough. I took a while actually thinking about this. I'm not just doing this on the spot. I've gone for Birmingham City. Now, this is really tricky. Like I say, Birmingham fans, don't hate me. Let me explain this. There's quite a few teams that could go down in this position, okay? Birmingham, for me, they can get out of this. There's no way they're guaranteed to go down. They can still get out of this. As things stand, they're just above the bottom three. But I don't think they seem to show the quality or the consistency to stay up. And there's teams like Rotherham United and maybe even Coventry City that just look a little bit more hungry to stay up this year. Rotherham and Coventry are both new to the championship this year. They're both desperate to stay up in their first season. Meanwhile, Birmingham, over the last few years, they've just been consistently bottom half of the championship. And I feel like if you're a team that does that, one year you probably will slip down the divisions. And I think that's what might happen to Birmingham. Now personally, I wouldn't like to see Birmingham go down. I've got a soft spot, like I've said in a previous video. They've lent us their stadium this season. They've saved Coventry City. But as a team, I do think Birmingham they're in a lot of trouble. They can still get out of this, but I'm backing them to finish 22nd. Now then, just above them, scraping survival by the skin of their teeth, I've gone for Rotherham United. Now Rotherham, they've been an interesting team this season, and they've actually got quite a few fixtures to catch up on, which puts them in a bit of a false position in the table actually. They're currently sat 22nd, and their last game was a 2-1 win over Sheffield Wednesday. That one was mental, but they've had more games called off due to COVID, and it puts them, like I say, in a false position with plenty of games to catch up on. Now, if I compare them to a team like Birmingham, who have just put below them, I think Rotherham, like I say, they show a bit more hunger, they show a bit more desire. I think they've got a bit more togetherness, they've got a battling nature, and they've got some decent players in there, the likes of Crooks. I really like that Matt Crooks. Smith, I think he's their top scorer, he's a decent player. I think Rotherham have just got enough to stay up this season. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be very close. But they've got a lot of 6-pointers to play between now and the end of the season. They've got the likes of Coventry next week. That's a massive game. They've still got to play Birmingham. They've got Huddersfield. They've got Wycombe. Massive games. And I think it's going to be tricky, but I think they will get out of it just. Now next up, 20th place, I've gone for Huddersfield Town. Now, I think they'll actually get sucked into a bit of a relegation battle in the closing weeks, but I do think they've just got enough to stay up. And the points they're on at the moment, 38, I think they probably only need 3 or 4 more wins just to get over the line. Huddersfield fans, I've obviously seen a few of them on my channel before. They're not happy with what's going on. Their club is in a bit of a crisis, I suppose. The form is really bad, but I think they've just got enough quality to get over the line. I think this season has been a write-off. If they stay up, then they just need to forget about this season and move on to next season. But yeah, I'm putting Huddersfield 20th. They've not been very convincing. Now in 19th place, I've gone for my team, Coventry City. Now despite Coventry being my team, I think they've probably been one of the hardest teams to predict in the Championship this year. We turn up for some games and not for others. We're a really funny team, honestly. We've had some really decent performances lately. That win against Derby at the weekend was crucial. The 2-0 win against Brentford came out of nowhere. That was fantastic, probably the best win of the season. But we've had a few games where we've just not turned up, or we've gifted the opposition silly goals, and it makes you question how good Coventry City are. I do think we'll get enough points between now and the end of the season, and we will stay up, so Coventry are finishing 19th. Now moving up to 18th, I've gone for Derby County, who are currently 18th in the table. To be honest, it's been a season to forget for them. It didn't start very well whatsoever, but Rooney came in and he steered them away from the relegation battle. Recent results haven't gone their way, but I still think Derby County have enough quality to survive. They've got some decent players. Kazim Richards, one of my favourite players. Honestly, I really like him. I'd love Coventry to sign him, but he's a really decent player, and I think Derby will stay up, and they can just start planning for next season once they're safe, because next season they could really give it a go, charging towards the top 6, which is where I expected them to finish this season, but they've been in the relegation battle. So we'll wait and see what happens with Derby, but I do think they'll stay up. Now moving up to 17th, I've gone for another East Midlands club, Nottingham Forest. I think they'll easily stay up again. Chris Hughton's gone in there and he's done a decent job, to be fair. They're not really flying away from the relegation battle, but they've got enough breathing space between where they are and the bottom 3. I don't think they'll go down. I don't even think they'll be in a battle. They've hit 40 points. They just need a few more to get to 50. And yeah, it's been a reasonable season for Forest. I'd say the first half wasn't great, but they've kind of re-galvanised it, and I think once again, a bit like Derby, they just need to move on to next season and maybe charge towards the top 6 next season. Now in 16th place, I've gone for Preston North End, a really funny team to predict. I picked up some really amazing results this season, but overall I'm not totally convinced by Preston. I think they're a decent team on their day, but they don't seem to do it consistently. At the start of the season, I thought they'd be a team that could be chasing the playoffs, but like I say, they just haven't really done it consistently enough. And I do see them slumping a little bit between now and the end of the season, down to 16th. They haven't got that much to play for anymore. They're not going to go down. I don't think they'll make the top 6, so I'm going to put Preston in 16th place. Now in 15th place, I've gone for Luton Town. I tell you what, they've been a real surprise package this season. At the start of the season, I backed them to be in a relegation battle, and I feel like quite a few people did after they just survived at the end of last season. But do you know what? They've proved everyone wrong. They've been mid-table this season, sometimes better than that. They've picked up some really decent results. Solid team. I do think they'll finish 15th, which is just a little bit below where they are now, but it's still a solid season and they can push on, and I'm sure they'll survive next season if they do what they did this season. Now in 14th place, Blackburn Rovers, a team that have been a bit hit and miss this season really. Tony Mowbray's really had a strange season with them. They started the season really well, and you've got to say they were a contender for the top 6 with the amount of goals they were scoring, but the goals have dried up, the form has dipped, they've lost a lot of games in a row. But they did win their last game, a 2-0 win away at Millwall, fair play to them. But I think you've got to say it's going to be a mid-table finish for Blackburn Rovers. It's hard to see how they're going to be consistent enough to charge back towards the playoffs. I think the playoffs have gone now. I don't think they'll go down, so it is mid-table they're going to have to settle for. They're going to have to regroup and go again next season, and they've shown qualities that they can make the top 6, but they need to be more consistent if they want to do that next season. Now 13th place, Millwall Football Club, a team that have been another mid-table team throughout the season. They had a spell where they looked like they were dragging themselves into the relegation battle, but they've re-galvanised this year. They had a decent January and February, they picked up enough decent results, and once again I think they've been mid-table this season. Just another solid Championship club for me. I think Millwall, they're decent, they're no mugs in this division. They're a team that can pick up a result against anybody, but just lacking that consistency to push into that top 6, and maybe next season they could go again, but I think it'll be 13th place for Millwall. Now moving into the top half in 12th, I've actually gone for Queen's Park Rangers. I've actually gone for them to finish a few places above where they are now. They do have a couple of games in hand. One coming up is against Wycombe Wanderers, where you'd expect them to win. And do you know what? I don't mind Mark Warburton. I don't mind Queen's Park Rangers as a club. I think they've been a decent team in the Championship. Coventry have still got to go away to QPR. We did beat them at home 3-2. That was a really decent game. But QPR, they've been a really entertaining team to watch this season. They've obviously lost a lot of games, but they've won a lot of games, and I think they will be mid-table. They've had some entertaining games, lots of goals going in at both ends, and you know what? QPR, I think you'll finish 12th. Now moving up to 11th, I've gone for Bristol City, looking fairly solid under Nigel Pearson. A bit hit and miss recently, but they did turn that losing run around and picked up a couple decent wins. I do think they'll be alright this season, Bristol City. I think they'll finish 11th, which is not a bad season for them. They do seem to be a mid-tables team in the Championship, sometimes knocking on the door of the playoffs, but once again, they've just lacked that consistency this season to finish in there. I tell you what though, I think Bristol City, if they hold on to Pearson going into next year in the Championship, they could be a real threat towards that top 6, because we've seen on their day, Bristol City are a really decent team, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were to finish in the top 6 next season. Now moving up to 10th place, we've got Stoke City. I think that's roughly where they are now in the table. Another team that's a bit hit and miss, more hit than miss, because they are in the top half, but just once again, I feel like they're not quite at that playoffs level just yet. They've dropped a few points which you'd think they should have gained. They did win their last game 2-0 against Wycombe, so they've still got a chance of making the top 6. Like I say, it's not over for Stoke just yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if they finished where they are now. Like I say, I just don't think they look as hungry as some of the teams chasing the playoffs right now. Now this is where it starts getting interesting. The playoff chase is really, really juicy, and 9th place, I've actually gone for Middlesbrough. Now a really solid team. They did the double over Coventry, a really decent team on the eye. I think they play some really decent football. They're really solid at the back with Neil Warnock. They're no mugs, and I tell you what, I think he signed a deal to be there next year. So Neil Warnock at Middlesbrough next year. If they don't go up this year, then who knows? They might next year. They do look fairly solid under him, and having him for another year won't hurt. I think he's got the most promotions in the Championship out of any managers. So fair play. I don't think they'll make the top 6. I think they've still got a chance, but I just think they'll finish a little bit short and finish roughly where they are now. Now in 8th place, I've actually gone for AFC Bournemouth. Now this would be a bit of a sad one if it is where they finish, because to be honest, I like them as a club, and they would have expected to finish in the top 6 this season after being relegated from the Premier League, but they've just petered off, and the teams like Barnsley, Cardiff, Reading, all just a bit more consistent at the moment. Bournemouth just fading away, and I do think they'll finish 8th. If they do finish 8th and just outside the playoffs, they will have to go again next season, and it'll be a tricky one because the Championship does get harder each year you're in it, but I don't know if they'll make the top 6 this year. I don't know. Now this is really, really, really harsh, but I've actually gone for Cardiff to finish 7th. Now I think they've got every chance of making the top 6, and I really hope they do, because they're a decent club, but I do think they'll finish just short of the top 6. I think the thing is, it'll come down to Cardiff or Barnsley. I think Reading, for me, I think they should just be in there, and I think between Cardiff and Barnsley, they're both hitting good levels of form, but Barnsley just that little bit better at the moment, just winning more games. I think Cardiff have drawn a few games recently, which is just a little bit off where you need to be if you want to keep winning games, obviously. Mick McCarthy's a great manager, so it wouldn't surprise me if they did sneak into that top 6. And do you know what? They've got some decent fans. I've had a few of them on the channel. They're a nice bunch of fans, but I don't know, I think Cardiff might finish 7th, but I think it'll either be 7th or 6th, you know. Now in 6th place, I've gone for Barnsley Football Club, the team I say will just sneak into the playoffs. Now at the start of the season, I could not picture myself saying this, but you know what? They are winning game after game after game. And I think they've won about 7 in a row, which is just unbelievable in the Championship. And their form would really have to take a U-turn for them to now fall outside the top 6. They look really solid. I think they've got a couple games in hand, if I'm right, and I think they should be alright, you know. I think, like I say, the best threat to them will probably be Cardiff City, but I do think Barnsley will have enough to go all the way and finish in the top 6. Now in 5th place, Reading Football Club, the team that are currently 5th, and they've been sat 5th for a few weeks now. An electric start to the season for Reading. They were absolutely flying, weren't they? Look at their form at the start of the season. They looked like they were going to win the league. It's petered off a little bit, but they'll be very happy to settle for the playoffs now. They've fallen down to 5th, and they're still winning games, so I think they will get over the line. They won their last game 3-0 against Sheff Wednesday, and they're not far away from hitting 70 or 75 points, the margin that should be enough for the top 6. So I do expect Reading to finish 5th. Ooh, now this is where it gets really, really tricky. There's 4 teams still to place, and 3 of them could all finish 2nd. In 4th place, I've gone for Brentford Football Club. Now it pains me to say this because at the start of the season I backed them to win the league, and I think they're a great club. They're a small club. It would be great to see them in the Premier League. Even if they finish in the playoffs, they've still got another chance of doing it. but for me, just lacking that consistency to make the top two. They've got a really decent team. Ivan Toney is blasting in the goals, and they are winning quite a lot of games, but like I say, when you're competing against Watford and Swansea, the form they're in, I don't know if Brentford will do it. I think they've still got a very good chance, but for me, I think they'll finish 4th. They could be the team to win the playoffs though, so keep your eye out for them. Now, in 3rd place, I've gone for Watford Football Club. I think they're just going to miss out. It's going to be really tight. This is really close, by the way. If you look at the Championship table now, it's so tight. It's so tight. But I think Watford will finish 3rd, agonisingly missing out on the top 2. But probably going to be the favourites going into the playoffs. They are looking really sharp at the moment, some really decent form. Another win at the weekend for them, beating Forest 1-0 in the early kick-off. And I think they do have the qualities to go all the way and sneak into 2nd. But for me, 2nd place will be Swansea City. Swansea just looking really good. And I tell you what, that last-minute goal against Middlesbrough the weekend just gone, that has kind of changed how I feel about Swansea. I thought they'd be up there, but that win for me shows... It just shows that they've got the grit and the desire to get over the line, and I think they will finish 2nd. They're still 3rd in the table, but they've got a couple of games in hand, and I do expect Swansea to do it. I think it'd be very close, like I said. If Swansea slip up, then Watford or Brentford will surely take it off them. But I do think Swansea will do it. They'll get over the line, and it'd be nice to see them back in the Premier League because they haven't been there for a few years. Now then, no surprises to see who's top of the league. Norwich City, they've been top for a long time now, and I would probably call them to be top a few weeks ago as well. What a season they've had. They are looking very good, and they are winning every game in sight at the moment. They are just absolutely cruising. They beat Brentford last week, which was absolutely crucial. And yeah, I just can't see how things are going to go wrong. They've got such a big gap. They've got so much breathing space. They could even slip up a few times between now and the end of the season, and they'll probably still win the league. So Norwich, you're going to win the league. Fair play to you. You've been the best team I've seen this season. I've put you first. So then guys, that does wrap up today's video. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.